call upon stage Mr. Sanil Nair, India Head of EPS, to present the potential of new technologies and beyond ERP, MIS, and print and packaging industry. I would also request you to keep down your questions so that you can come and ask questions when the floor is open for Q&A.
Good morning, or rather good noon actually. So Sriram talked about what especially Indian customers, ERP customers are actually wanting and also looking for, also potential prospects. And then Gabby talked about what EFI is at this time doing and where we are taking our solutions to match the industry needs. So my job is very easy actually. I'm going to predict the future. Sounds like science fiction, not really. What we're going to be talking about here specifically, this topic is actually already proving to be a game changer for the general industry, general manufacturing industry, and standard ERP solutions out there. So the topic is actually about, you are already hearing this in most of the time in the newspapers and magazines and TVs, big data. Now, what is big data? We'll just go through in a second. And also, what's the relevance for that in print and packaging industry? And again, drawing some parallelism from the general ERP and manufacturing industry. And why we are talking the parallelism? Because typically the general ERP industry and the manufacturing industry led the way. And we are a subsegment of that. And also, but specifically, we require niche areas of expertise in that, and that's why EFI is the largest print ERP MIS provider in the world. So now what we are talking here again is not specific to India as a market. It is trying to draw parallel from a world out there. So just going to the next page here. So what is big data, right? Big data is about large volume of data, which is out there, and you're collecting data from pretty much everywhere at this time. All of your equipments, all of your devices which you utilize in the general life, as well as in industry, is actually already wired to network, or else it will be wired to the network as we go. And now, how is that data being used? We are not, stranger to a large amount of data, especially in print industry and packaging industry. There are a large amount of data which is collected in specifically in relational databases, which we use for business intelligence, reporting, and how am I running my organization? Is it profitable? What are my key customers? And things of that nature. But what we are talking about is large amount of data which is very difficult to humanly possible to analyze. So we require algorithms which are like machine algorithms, machine learning algorithms, which needs to make sense out of these data. And specifically, an application area for this is predictive analytics. And predictive analytics is big time now used in the general industry, and how it is making a difference. So we will go through a few examples, and then we'll try to see how potentially this could make a difference to print and packaging, and then we will go through the panel to ask a few questions whether is that actually useful, or how do they see that coming in the future. So we're going to take some examples actually, all right? And some of these customers are very, some of these companies are, we are very familiar with. And one of them is Staples, right? Demand forecasting. In fact, in some of the examples we actually talked about here today, also talked about how we are actually trying to cater to increasingly increasing margin pressure, and how we are actually producing in time and all of that, right? So now Staples, which is a large retailer, office supplies and print services provider in the US, they are already utilizing big data and predictive analytics to predict, and by drawing consumer behavior from online and offline through the web, as well as how they're interacting with within the store and other mediums, to predict what would be the demand in the upcoming peak season, and what type of products they will be requiring, and so that I can line up my production and increase my revenue. They're already making a good percentage of revenue increase, and they're already seeing that. Another one is Lenovo. Lenovo is actually trying to use machine language and predictive analytics to figure out what are the, it is actually about predicting. It is not about after we release the product, figuring out what is failing and reacting to it. It is about predicting what are the potential components which could potentially fail much faster than the other components, and then bring in quality control upfront in the production line, and making sure that it doesn't fail us that fast, and reducing warranty costs, which is improving their bottom line, which is actually making a difference to the company. Some more examples. Again, you are already seeing, especially in the United States, electricity actually being fed back into the grid to gain revenue. So now, one of the company here, which is the Salt River project, which is an Arizona-based utility company, which is the second largest, I think, in the United States. They're actually utilizing predictive models to figure out what is the best time to sell electricity back to the grid. And again, utilizing a lot of information out there in the market, in the consumer behavior, the electricity utilization, peak utilization, all of that, to increase their revenue. And another thing, and in fact, Himanshu here actually brought up some samples last time in our the advisory council meeting. He actually produces very innovative brochures for BMW, which includes some sort of printed electronics and non-print way of interacting with the customers and potential customers. So Internet of Things is actually a big thing which is already there in the market. A lot of customers are collecting sensory data, collecting feedback. Automatically the data is being sent from devices. So ThyssenKrupp is an elevator manufacturer, and look at elevators. They are very critical for operations of the business, especially moving people up and down the large buildings. They have more than 1 million elevators right now connected to cloud, collecting data, a large volume of data, and predicting potential maintenance requirements ahead of time, and sending people to do preventive maintenance, not after something broke down, which is actually helping things keep running up to speed and without downtime, which makes a huge difference. And now what we're going to do is, this is good. This is what is happening in the general industry as well as the ERP. What potentially could make a difference to print and packaging? So let's just take a few samples and situations and see whether that makes sense. And also we will ask our advisory council members to make comments over that. So what are the opportunities? Again, this is just a prediction. This is not limited to these few items. It could be, application could be much wider. And so one of the examples of, for example, in EFI, we have a solution called print flow scheduling. It uses global optimization methodology to figure out what are the constraints in your production manufacturing line, and it will show you, how to solve that and optimally run your production lines based on the jobs and things of that nature. That is utilizing the existing data. Now, and also provides basic capabilities to do what if scenarios. Okay, if I shift this job from this production line to this press to another press, how does that affect to the rest of the operation, rest of the jobs which are scheduled and things of that nature. And it can border somewhat science fiction kind of things. And when you see that, because it's not really humanly possible to do that if you have a large operation in your plant. And so now taking that beyond that and seeing, okay, these are some of our potential customers, and how do I run some what-if scenarios and figure out the margin. Again, I think Himanshu talked about, his competition trying to beat him in 15 rupees versus 20 rupee job situation. So what is the best way to produce this, and what is the best way to realize the margin and predict some of these jobs? Okay, this job we should take versus another job. And demand forecasting is always a potential opportunity. And whenever we walk into any of our large potential prospects as well as customers like Repro India, very recently we went there, and one of the things which we saw on the way to the plant is stacked with huge amount of material inventory, especially paper, which are procured from international locations for quality jobs and things of that nature. And if they could predict the demand based on their customer base as well as the seasonality, they could potentially get these inventory just in time, not bring in, utilize, and not utilize them and stack up them in the warehouses and consume the warehouse space, as well as have these accounts on the book. So demand forecasting is always, already some basic amount of demand forecasting is already there in the ERP systems, especially what we have. And what we can add to that is utilizing additional data which we can capture from our environment. Couple of more areas. Preventive maintenance, and this is already some of the large printers are already starting to do this. For example, Heidelberg is already collecting some of this sensory data to predict potential prevention. And our own large inkjet printers, Vutex and all of that, is already on the way to do this, figuring out what are the peak time utilization of ink heads, how are they performing, what are the levels of vibrations, and collecting these data over a long period of time to figure out what will happen to those ink heads, for example, as a situation. And again, moving on to the last item here, let's say the Internet of Things, right? I just talked about an example of Himanshu, so a company which is doing some innovative campaigns. And I visited Manipal Institute of Technology some few months ago. They have in the institute, they have a small group of research students actually showed me printing using electronics and conductive ink on paper and thin films, which actually lights up and you can interact with them. So printing is no longer going to be limited to what you see, and it is going to be getting into the realm of really science fiction. And there are companies out there in the market, especially in Western Europe, which is already printing batteries on pages, and one is there in Silicon Valley also. They are printing batteries on the paper, and also collecting data like temperature and environmental data to say, okay, is your product actually kept in the minimal or minimum required controlled environments, or is it already expired? And also, R.R. Donnelley is making a huge investment right now in RFID printing. So when you walk into, let's say, I don't know, Bloomingdale's or something like that, a fashion shop, currently what you see on the tag, they actually can read them online. So the inventory and what is available on the store can be automatically tallied. They can order more things as the inventory is going out, and things of that nature. And also looking at and predicting based on capacity, potential capacity, excess capacity may be available in your plant, or potential demand. You can actually marry this thing with social media and cross media marketing. Again, just recollecting a conversation I had with Himanshu in the morning, Himanshu is actually working with some of his marquee customers to provide the media marketing opportunity, like email-based marketing and print-based marketing, and then allowing the customers to track the utilization and results so that they can actually go ahead and start to do that. And we already do that through some of our products like Direct Smile, for example, and in fact, he's already probably utilizing that or already looking at it, which is really helping him in his day-to-day operations. So taking that beyond that to marry the forecasting capability of your system, see whether you will probably end up with excess capacity or excess inventory, and trying to make it available over the internet. For example, some of you guys already know bus booking, right? Some of the portals actually collect just in time what is the excess inventory, meaning the seats available, and then they deep discount and make it available to you through right now WhatsApp. I don't know whether you guys have seen that actually. So those kind of things are going to be available and potentially utilized in packaging and print industry also, and people who are going to be innovative and who can make a differentiation in the market could utilize. So now I'm going to just switch over to a couple of questions, and I would want to see if any of you guys want to answer. Anybody can pick up these questions. First question is, we talked about a few examples. Now, are these science fiction, or do you think are there potential opportunities in near term in print and packaging industry? Anyone?
Himanshu already mentioned a few minutes ago that he is looking at predictive analysis to figure out what's the right amount of inventory to keep at hand, because excess inventory is cash flow issue. So Himanshu, you should say something more about it.
In my case, what I have done is instead of I'm printing on various medias like normal paper, special papers, and some different papers which require fabrication. Sometimes when I print something and it fascinates other customers, when I show these samples to them, they ask me how can I get them for their campaigns and different stuff. I get to hold some data of them, that how much production requirement they would be requiring in just next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and how much time frame is required to get those papers from the vendor itself. I compute that data for myself, that if I keep that stock for just say 5 days, and I can print them and give it to them in next 7 days, that solves my cash crunches and increases the shelf life of the product when it reaches the customer.
Thank you.
I will take the case of manufacturing. For example, say, take the case of gravure. Now, gravure, there are different widths, say, of material which you print, which depends on your pack size. Now, what we did was, we did an analyzed from an FMCG, all the widths they were printing, and see that how many of them were not optimized to the printing width of the machine, which is possible. So then the next step was to optimize the packaging size, so that could go onto the machine and optimize the optimum width of the packaging cylinder. That's one. Second thing is, if you had this, then could you run it on your machine? The machines were optimized. So what happened was, the packaging machine was optimized, the packaging width was optimized, the packaging size was optimized, and as a result of which the packaging machine uptime or the packaging productivity was optimized. So this was something was done at one of the FMCG companies where I worked into, and this brought in lot of benefits, typically in terms of money, because the processing cost comes down, because in the same time you are printing more, and also and of course also the total cost and the delivery period, because you are optimized for speed.
at a macro level, maybe we can predict environmental issues to use that as a selling tool for green packaging.
Print and packaging, one of the biggest problems has been seasonal and cyclical. You got our peaks and valleys. So any kind of support in getting any predictions that you can get from MIS or ERP, which will allow us to kind of analyze what happened over the last 3 years. I mean, for some reason, we know that, during the rainy season, business is down. We all know that year after year. But for some reason, we all get caught up in this thing which says, we are unprepared. We are holding higher inventory. So I think a little bit of something which will give us a little more, which will just analyze the data that we already have in the system, but give it to us in such a way that our becomes a little smarter, our inventory becomes, our industry is too much or too little. You either have too many orders on hand, or you got no orders on hand. You got excess inventory, or you're short of something. And every time there's just one item which is holding up everything. These are the things that I think can be solved to a great extent.
It's a good point actually, DJ, because probably we are halfway there already with business intelligence. So we have a pretty good software solution available, which will kind of give you good analysis of the problem which you talked about. But and then adding more information like let's say weather patterns, for example, right? But collecting that to say that okay, monsoon is going to be delayed by, I'm just making up, 2 months, right? And now, okay, these type of stocks I can keep in inventory more. Maybe I don't have to sell it at a discount, for example, some of the products, right? Maybe.
So, from my end, just one word of caution about this whole topic. I think that we need to be careful to differentiate between trending and predicting. So, I would argue that every business needs to understand some of the fundamental of the business based on data and where things are trending. Now the trend might be influenced because of one big customer that consumes a certain type of paper which is unique, and and if you lose that customer, if you get more from that customer, it can change the whole picture. But you basically see where I am and what's the trend in the last 1 or 2 years, because I can learn something from it, and I know my customer, I can figure it out. So that's really around business intelligence and giving you the data and show you the trends. To really do predicting in a way that you would base your decision on that without risking your business, either you need to have some repetitiveness in what you do. So packaging was mentioned before. There's a lot of repetition. You define an item, you continuously manufacturing it. So if you start looking at what flavor of ice cream you're manufacturing, that might predict the kind of ink you would need and so on. That might give value because it shows you repetitive stuff. But to try to do prediction on digital jobs that you get from set of customers, I don't know how indicative it's going to be. And it's really a good question to ask, because you can give recommendation that somebody would follow and then would like to shoot you because we basically screw up the inventory. So I think that we need to be a little bit careful from that perspective. I think that what could be interesting is once for those businesses, whether it's franchisees and so on, that deal with a lot of consumers, then you start having enough big data, large quantities, where predicting could be really very relevant. So for things like cross-media, web to print, and so on, that becomes much more relevant on the software side. Now, of course, on VU tech and machinery, predicting is very valuable in terms of predicting malfunctions, spare parts, and so on. But that we can learn from others. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. But I think that on inventory and the software side of things, we have to be very careful when we recommend to predict versus where we recommend to analyze the data and should look at the trends, but shy away from predicting.
Right. Thanks, Gabby. Gabby was trying to bring me from science fiction to reality. Now I'm awake. So yeah, you can pick up any of these questions and answer any of them if you like.
the biggest challenge I see is data. Once you start instrumentalizing your machines and processes, etc., then you're going to start gathering data. And a lot of this stuff that machine learning consumes requires boatloads of data. So I think the big challenge is, if tomorrow we started gathering data, it's going to be several years before this industry matures. So I think by that time, it's kind of like the Gartner hype cycle, right? Things always hype up a lot, and then people give up on it, and then quietly it gets reborn. So I think having the right amount of pragmatism or reality in that is going to be probably the biggest challenge, I see.
Also, how open typical print vendors would be to share data, because again, some of these data are shared but not necessarily utilized in a specific context, but in a bigger way makes a difference. But are you open to, meaning when I say our print industry open to sharing data without specific customer context and things of that nature for the greater analysis? Because as Sam said, you would require a lot of data to analyze things.
Say, some of the information lies with the customers. For example, you will see a sudden peak in the soft drink consumption. So there are labels which go on soft drink bottles. So you can definitely expect that there will be a surge in the sales of soft drinks which they have a label. Now let us take, for the same season, you will also be competing with the ice cream market. In the ice cream market also, the ice cream market will go up. Say, unfortunately in India it has not stabilized, that you don't sell the same amount of ice cream throughout the year, but there is going to be a spike in summer season. But in summer season, if you have rains coming on early, then what happens is the demand drops down. Or if the summer is very high, then you don't go out with your family to have an ice cream, then also it drops down. So it's an interesting game in which you can go on predicting. And many of these things in a basic form has already been done by the user industry. For example, I will go to flexible industry and say the seeds. Say some of the hybrid seeds, they are high value and the packaging is also high value. Now this will come, this and pesticides market will come when the planting season comes. So for the planting season for 4 months, it's going to be all pesticides and seeds. So these are some of the trends which, if you are in touch with the customer, you can know. And to maybe bringing in with a lot of other corrections, and as you said, what if scenario, you can build a scenario in which my machine will get dedicated to these sort of things, and am I ready for this?
Any questions from the audience?
Good afternoon, everyone. So I have two questions. One to Mr. Gabby. In your presentation about the new strategy through productivity software, so you also emphasized on customer advocacy and support, right? So to improvise on this area, so how differently are we going to go with productivity software strategy? Okay, let me repeat the question. Is it audible? Okay.
Guys, there is a bit of an acoustic issue depending upon where you're sitting. So anybody who wants to ask a question, please come in the front of the stage and get a mic, and so we can hear it.
Okay, so let me repeat the question to Mr. Gabby. So in your presentation, you were emphasizing the value of the customer advocacy and support. So we would like to hear from you about with this new productivity software suite that we are introducing to the market. So how differently are you going to operate on this area?
I think, Gabby, the question is, our strategy about, increasing customer centricity.
customer advocacy and support. So
Same thing.
if I have to add one more point is about the post-implementation of the software, with the customer. Okay. So how differently are you going to provide the support than what it is today?
Yeah, so one of the comments that was made multiple times in the discussion was the needs of every business are changing. And it's not always clear why the challenges has to do with, is it a specific issues with the software, or maybe I need some help in terms of figuring out how do I need to maybe do certain things differently or use the software differently. If your support mentality is a break-fix mentality, like servicing hardware, and you say, I wait for a customer to open tickets, and I'll answer the ticket, I'll address the issue, then you're losing touch with the changes of your customers. If you take an initiative to reach out from time to time and say how things are going, what's working, what's not working, not from the break and fix issues, you start understanding where they are. You have an opportunity, you gain intelligence whether they might need help, there might be a way we can be of more value. So it requires a different methodology for support. Truth to be told, our approach has been break-fix for a long time. And break-fix, in a very silo way. If you call and tell me, I have an issue with DSF, DSF will answer you. I have an issue with my MIS, MIS would answer you. So we need to do two major changes which you started doing. One is, you have one advocate in EFI, or at least for the software part of EFI. And they'll figure out what the issue is. You don't have to guess yourself. If you have a good guess, let us know, but we're not expecting you to know where the issue is necessarily. So that's when on inbound traffic. And also go outbound periodically just to understand where they are, what works, what doesn't work, where they might have challenges not related to the software, so that we can come forward and propose how we can maybe help. So it's a very different approach to how to do support compared to what we used to do, before.
Thank you, Gabby. So my second question is about the survey results that Sriram ran us through. One of the non-ERP user responds, right, which says that we don't mind what technology you use, but all it caters is to our need, right? So which means they don't really care about the technology trends, right? Is it really true with the ERP users as well? And continuation to that is what it means for EFI, the technology company.
So I'll be able to answer the first part of the question.
Sure. The second part can be answered by Gabby. Yeah.
Yes, I think the trend is also with the ERP users. The primary focus, initially at least, is with the functional mapping. In the sense they want to ensure that whatever they need in terms of functionality is available in the solution they choose. Slowly, once they start adopting the solution, they would want to have the technology expertise as well. In the sense they want to have the state-of-the-art technology. As someone was pointing out earlier, they would then want cross-platform capability. They would want automated alerts, automated emails, etc. also being added as and when required. But the primary focus is always on functional mapping, comprehensive functional mapping. So I'll hand it over to Gabby for the second part.
So one of the things I was always asking myself when the customers speak about technology, what do they really mean?
Right.
Okay. So software companies in many cases think, what database do you use and what broker do you use and what. In many cases when you ask customers about technology, after you cover the functionality, can I do these kinds of estimating, do you support this kind of press and so on, in their mind, technology has to do with connectivity and approachability to data. So I might be on the production, but I want to understand how scheduling look like. I might be a scheduler, I want to understand, some of the things which are coming for key customers, which I know I have a very quick turnaround demand, and I better know in advance what the heck they are, what the sales guy is selling, because once it hits my, my desk, it's going to be a tsunami because they want it immediately and tomorrow morning and so on. So access to data for them is technology. There was comment before about mobile. So if I'm outside of my desk, how visible to me, or if I'm the owner or if I'm the operational manager, I have to go to see a client, how visible on the go information for me to know, is in terms of productivity of the shop floor, or in terms of backup of certain, certain promised dates for certain jobs not being met. They'll say that's part of technology, right? So I think that as every software vendor, we are trying to, keep and being a modern provider in terms of what we call underlying technology. We really need to figure out what customers mean by technology, and it has a lot to do with how approachable the data is for them, on the go, how easy the software is to use for their users, how quickly they can adapt, how quickly they can get to the kind of data they need. That's what they call technology. So a lot of the initiative that we are now investing in, common look and feel, common user experience,
Right.
Easier integration to the ecosystem, which is not from EFI, and so on. All of those, regarding of which is the underlying software technology, is a big technology factor for our customers.
I think well said, Gabby. So as long as it is adding value to their business and simplifying the workflows, I think technology doesn't matter actually. Right. Thank you.
Hi, my question is again related to the survey that we did, and when we look at the kind of cost the printers are willing to spend on the system, ERP or whatever system you want to call it, we had a pretty narrow range. And my question is it because of the demand side, or is it also because of the supply side? Because many a times we go into a particular price range because that's what we have all seen. We think that a shoe will cost, say, 1,000 rupee to 5,000, and then my mindset is that for a shoe the cost is 1,000 to 5,000. I have never seen a shoe of 50,000, so I never talk about it. So is the real question about the availability, the supply side of the software, people having the visibility of what all is available in the market and that's what it costs? Or is it really about the affordability and the demand side?
It's both, I guess. It's also to do with affordability, but as Gabby pointed out earlier, the mentality in India is they wouldn't mind spending a lot on hardware, but when it comes to software, there is always looking at the cheapest product because they think any software can do the work for them. So it is both in terms of what you said, affordability, and also in terms of demand and supply. So it can't be either. It has to be both.
So I'll just intervene. I won't give an example from software because I don't know much about it, but I'll give an industry example. So on Friday, I think it was last Friday, there's a small center that was set up in Vasai. It was called, I think, DMI, Dhirubhai Mistry Institute, and primarily the focus was on screen printing. Now, there's 2 or 3 interesting things. It's by a small company, Indian manufacturer called Graphica Flextronica. And, if you look at this scenario for screen printing to about 15 years ago, there were 2 or 3 things. One was a lot of people who said that screen printing is dead and it's almost sort of disappeared. That was one. Number 2 was the kind of profile of people who were doing screen printing in India, very small companies, and most of them were part of cottage industries, investment of 50 lakhs, 1 crore. So that was the sort of scenario. Graphic arts space itself, it had sort of narrowed down. In the last 10 years, in that screen printing space, and we've seen this sort of innovation from a company like, what DMI has been able to do. DMI does a couple of things. It does short-term training. So basically what it says is that they believe, in screen printing almost like a religion. And they're saying that this is the technology of the future and they're willing to invest in it. They don't talk machine, they don't talk, UV inks, and they don't talk overprint varnish and which material. They just bring loads and loads of people into their institute. And they do short-term 1-week courses for, as he was saying, it cannot be top-down, it has to be bottom-up with operators. So that has been one part of their plan. The second thing that has happened is they've realized that screen printing may not have a future in graphic arts, in traditional graphic arts space, but it definitely has a huge, future, say in textiles, in industrial applications, and automotive parts, etc. So there has been a recalibration of the traditional screen printer in that space. So now cut to what you find is that in that screen printing space, there's about 10 to 15% in the traditional space, about 30% to 35% in textiles, people like Quenby who were there last time, and of course other big giants, and then again in industrial application. So this is, if you look at Graphica Flextronica today, I will not look at a person like, and I'm just giving this as an example, there are others, but I won't look at a Bhargav Mistry as a person who's selling machines. He's there at the shows, he's selling these machines. But I'm looking at him as an influencer. He has used this technology, and today that is associated with top brands. They go to FESPA and they compete with the Germans, they compete with the Swiss, and they win these big awards, and they come back using sort of this, very simple, pared down technology, no compromise on cost. So he's made these guys, dare to get them to think big, using a very simple module, and it's just fantastic the way he's empowered a sort of generation of people who are now using screen and looking at new options. I think that's probably one strategy. I'm sure there are others, and I think the same thing's happening in ERP, where there is sort of a requirement. Everybody knows that there is, that we saw this with digital CTP, that people are struggling with workflows and so on. It needed one evangelist to just take that whole revolution forward. Some similar thing is needed here. We've got stuck in a sort of dead end. We just need that one push, some evangelist who just takes that whole thing forward. Yeah.
And also adding on, like I pointed out, you need to have a benchmark on what to exactly expect from a solution that you want to invest in. Now there is no benchmark per se for the print industry to look at when it comes to an MIS or an ERP solution. So some kind of benchmarking needs to happen on what they should look at from a MIS or an ERP solution, so that the costing can then, as Ramu points out, will move ahead, will have a push.
Any more questions? Okay. Today, it was enriching to know about MIS ERP system's ability to do more with less, and also its focus towards faster throughput and cost reduction, accurate information management, reduction of errors, and customer visibility. I'm sure you have got all your answers for your questions, so I think you have quizzed enough. Before we close the first half, we have a short quiz by Ramu for the advisors, which is, I'm sure you're going to have fun and enjoy this.
So this is just to sort of work up an appetite. This is the fun part of things. So I must confess, I know very little about ERP, so I was pretty impressed with whatever little I heard and understood today. So what I'm going to say now is sort of keeping the group editor and Print Week hat aside, and this is like the local Vidushak, the local jester. So the whole idea is that you get to laugh a bit. Everything is in jest. There might be a few jokes about EFI, there might be a few jokes about the printing industry. So the first thing that I realized after hearing all this wonderful presentations and all this the technology forefront drivers is, I think I need a ERP because I've been leading a sort of error-full life, and I think I need an ERP which makes me feel great. And I think a time will come when all human beings will have an ERP system embedded or installed inside. Speaking of human beings, I think Lionel Messi has an ERP system because he really works well. A cloud in the sky, number 3. A cloud in the sky is a cloud. A cloud for a farmer is next season's crop. A cloud in a poet's imagination is an idea. But a cloud for an ERP specialist is all of the above 3, with faster throughput and predictive analysis. So what is ERP? ERP is that which is written and coded with big data for a tomorrow which never comes. What is a beautiful ERP? A beautiful ERP is an act of resistance because it has to overcome resistance from many people, be it auditors, accountants, tallies, and operators. What is an ERP? An ERP is like a bonsai. It can be very, very beautiful but very expensive to maintain. However, it need not be as beautiful as a bonsai, but hardworking and faithful like a baobab. There's no such thing as a perfect ERP. There's always something missing in an ERP. The key is to find it, it seems, and that is the essence of ERP.
if in the era of Adam and Eve, the first sort of our parents in a way, if there was ERP and future forecasting, then there would have been no story of the serpent and there would have been no forbidden apple. Do ERP companies use ERP? That's a question. One ERP user, no. A good ERP cannot be neutral. If it is, it leads to crime, which makes me wonder if there is an ERP for corruption and scams. I think the best way to spread ERP in India is celebrate National ERP Day on 32nd December, because on that day all algorithms are on a holiday. What is ERP? A tree asked me, if I implement it, will I grow more and will my leaves be able to monetize? ERP will be in when the box on your shop floor will ask you, can I be out of the box? One morning, I asked the rising sun, what is the secret of your success? To which the sun replies, centralized portfolio management and error-free workflow. The next day, I asked the moon, what happened to you? Why didn't you succeed? The moon replied, I work on Excel. As I sit with Yudhishthir, Duryodhan and Ashwathama, these are the three sort of warriors, the Kauravas and Pandavas. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, I tell them that with good workflow analytics, I think we could have managed the Mahabharata better. And the final one, this is about religion. I was in Haridwar the other day, so I'd gone there was a new plant visit. A priest was promising a newly married couple everything, a bungalow, a BMW, a free annual pass for the Barcelona games, a vacation in Machu Picchu. After everyone left, I asked the priest, what was all that about? He replied, ERP. And he said, religion is the world's best ERP and the most profitable and probably the first e-commerce site. Prayers are the next best thing to web-to-print platform, and God is great because he's always on autopilot and very good at customer relationship management. That's it. Just some fun, yeah.
Thanks, Ramu. Those were definitely fun lines about ERP. It was indeed a very informative and interactive and definitely a great learning session today, and we would look forward to more such meetings. I would now request Sam, VP of Global Engineering and MD EFI India, to deliver the closing comments for the first half.
You know, it's a tough act to follow, Ramu. So all I'm going to say is, I don't know, they've been pumping food odors through the air conditioning system for a while, and my stomach for one is growling. So really quickly, you know, again, I really thank all the advisors for a great session. Good job by the committee, Arun and the gang, and you know, every time we look at this, pretty professional. Sure, there are areas of improvement. We can do still better in sound, Mr. Ahuja, but you know, overall, I'm really happy the way it's turned out. So, thank you. Hopefully, you enjoyed it. What is next? That's all my. I mean, I'm not summarizing everything that everybody said here, so spare you that. Sorry.
We would like to thank our esteemed advisors for taking their time out and sharing their thoughts. So we have a special gift to commemorate this event. So not definitely the 3D car, which was guessed last time. So we have this beautifully printed elephant on the glass from our EFI ViewTech printers QS3200. So may I now call upon Gabby to give the token of our gratitude to advisors. We would like to thank Asha for sharing your experience on challenges faced during implementing ERP, MIS solutions and their benefits. Thank you, Asha. You can be on center of the stage. We would like to thank DJ Bangara for sharing your past experience and getting started with these solutions. Thank Thank you, Himanshu, for sharing your personal experience for implementing in-house ERP MIS solution.
Hey, guys, you're clapping as if you haven't had food for many days.
Thank you, Prabuddha, for sharing how data help to optimize and increase productivity. Thank you, Ramu, for coordinating the panel discussions and for the fun lines about ERP. Thank you, Sriram, for presenting the survey results and for giving key insight about ERP MIS trends in India. Thank you all. May I now request Sam to present our token of gratitude to Gabby. Last but not the least, we would like to thank the team working behind the scene and to make this event a great success, especially the program team, research and collaboration team, facilities team, sales team, video and photography, IS&T team, media printing, media and gift design, finance team. Thank you all.
Also, we would like to call upon Arun. Arun,
we would like to request Arun to present the memento for Sam.
Thanks again, and thanks for everyone, for being engaged. Also, specifically, like to thank Andy, who was with us here, who has been with us. He's been a great supporter of us as well, being the marketing for Fiery. So we look upon you for further, engagement with us here. So thanks again. Yep.
So we are almost at the end of our first half of the session. Please do not forget to attend your respective signed sessions post-lunch. Thank you one and all.
We are done with the rest, right?
Yeah.